Hello everyone, and welcome to the International WeLoveU Foundation's Sickle Cell Awareness Webinar. My name's Dwayne Ford, and I'll be your host for this evening. For those of you who have participated in WeLoveU events before, welcome back. And for those who are joining us for the first time, we're glad to have you with us. Tonight's panel features speakers from the American Red Cross as well as Harmony Health and Wellness. And our moderator for the evening will be Dr. Nina Anderson, founder of Tova Community Health. Dr. Nina Anderson is a longtime friend of the International WeLoveU Foundation, and you might remember her from last year's Sickle Cell Awareness webinar. We're so glad to have her with us, but before we begin, I'd like to introduce our first-time viewers to the International WeLoveU Foundation. The International WeLoveU Foundation is a non-governmental organization associated with the United Nations Department of Global Communications. It was founded by Chairwoman Gil-jah in South Korea in 2001. And through the chairwoman's passion and enthusiasm, the International WeLoveU Foundation has grown to operate in over 60 countries. The International WeLoveU Foundation is determined to improve the lives of the global community by carrying out volunteer services in 6 core areas: community well-being, education, emergency relief, environmental protection, health, like tonight's webinar, and international aid. Now, before we begin tonight's events, I would like to let you know that if you want to know more about our initiatives and how to support the International WeLoveU Foundation, you can go to WeLoveU, letter U, USA.org. That's WeLoveUusa.org. Now, without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to our moderator for tonight, Dr. Nina Anderson.
Thank you all for joining us this evening. Again, my name is Dr. Nina Anderson, but I prefer for you to call me Dr. Nina. I am the Executive Director and founder of Tova Community Health in the Philadelphia region of Delaware. Our mission is to provide holistic, comprehensive, compassionate care to individuals with complex chronic medical conditions like sickle cell anemia and trait. And we are right now in the month of September. And in recognition of Sickle Cell Awareness Month, we're focusing on the life of those living with sickle cell anemia, their treatment, pain management options, and most important, the role that blood donations play in helping those with sickle cell anemia live an optimal quality of life and also saving their lives when they're in a crisis and they need life-sustaining blood to save their lives. Joining us tonight to go over these more important pressing issues, we have a phenomenal panel that includes Dr. Bialaski from the American Red Blood Cross and also Dr. Monique Bowman from Harmony Health and Wellness. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much.
So, Thank you for coming. And Dr. Lasky, I'm so excited to hear about what you're doing and sharing with us very important information and how we as a community can help the Red Blood Cross, those living with sickle cell and other blood disorders, live an optimal quality of life, even now as we are in this pandemic. But did you know that in the United States, we estimate about 100,000 people in the US live with sickle cell disease? That's right, 100,000 people. And according to the American Red Cross, and sickle cell anemia disproportionately affects people of African descent, although those of Hispanic descent are the fastest growing ethnic group of people here in the United States. This very debilitating condition causes the red blood cells to harden, to change shape, and to sickle. And when these blood cells hardened, they block nutrients and oxygenated blood from being able to perfuse through our organs and our tissues. And that causes severe pain and other complications from sickle cell. And many patients with sickle cell disease, besides living with chronic pain every day of their lives, can have respiratory ailments and conditions, develop organ failure, and results of renal complications and others. I want to say thank you so much for coming, and this is going to be really exciting as we dive into the importance of our partner, the American Red Cross, and hearing from Dr. Lasky and her fantastic work she's doing. We do know that there is no widely universal cure for sickle cell yet, but we are on the precipice of great research and clinical trials that are happening. But for now, the importance of blood donation and blood transfusions is very important and critical for those living with sickle cell anemia and who need life-sustaining blood. And interestingly, those of African American descent are the best match for an individual with sickle cell anemia. We're going to hear from Dr. Lassie. She's going to tell you why and why that is important in providing a safe transfusion for those living with sickle cell. So with further ado, I'm going to turn over our webinar to Dr. Lasky, a board certified physician in blood banking and transfusion medicine from the American Red Cross. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Dr. Nina, and to the WeLoveU Foundation. I just want to first express my sincere gratitude for being able to be here today. Really just, I'm almost moved to tears right now to just be a part of this and to have this community support. So thank you. So I work very closely with our amazing team in the Red Cross. We're a national organization, and so we have folks all over the country who are working on these efforts to what we call closing the sickle cell gap, which is really, we've put a great amount of attention to this really, as Dr. Nina was describing, devastating disease. And so I work with my team to raise awareness, and I also work very closely with our hospital partners in the community who are treating patients with sickle cell disease every day. So I have a window into numerous sides of this patient population. And right here is where our efforts start, is engaging with the community like this. We engage with businesses, with schools, with faith-based organizations to raise awareness, to hopefully get people to open their doors to allow us to engage. We like to do educational sessions and, of course, donate blood, which is what we're all about ultimately. So for red cells, red cells are transfused all the time. They're transfused for to a variety of patients, particularly trauma, also for cancer patients while they're undergoing chemotherapy, bone marrow transplant patients. Patients with sickle cell disease are a unique population because they are transfusion dependent for life. They That means they depend on blood transfusions for the entirety of their lives. So as you've heard from Dr. Nina, the problem is in the red cells, which is what carries oxygen in your body. And every tissue and every organ in your body needs oxygen in order to function properly. And without oxygen, the tissue will die. So we often see multi-organ failure, joint tissues around the bones and joints are dying, so they require joint replacements, sometimes as a teenagers, because the cells are hard. They can block the blood vessels, cutting off the blood flow, which causes stroke. Sickle cell disease is actually one of the more common causes of stroke in children. So blood transfusions, specifically when we talk about blood transfusions, we're talking about red cells, are really one of the main therapies for sickle cell disease. So specifically, we are transfusing healthy cells to not only just add to the volume of red cells that are in the body, but also to decrease the concentration of unhealthy cells. And so there are a number of situations where a patient with sickle cell disease might need a transfusion while they're having what's called an acute crisis, where their cells are sickling, they're jamming up in the blood vessels, they're actually breaking and spilling their contents into the bloodstream, which is toxic. It can cause severe pain, respiratory distress, and is really an emergent type of scenario. So we would transfuse when they're in the middle of an acute crisis. And then there are also certain circumstances where we transfuse as a preventive measure. If a patient has been identified as being at risk for stroke, and we see this very commonly in children, there are screening measures that can be applied to see if the patients are at risk. They will get periodic blood transfusions to prevent these complications. So really two reasons. Two ways we can give blood transfusions are what's called simple, where we just transfuse a unit of blood into the body, and that's really to increase what we call the hemoglobin level, is really a measure of this of the protein that carries the oxygen. So we just want to raise that up to decrease the concentration of the sickled cells and to increase the oxygen carrying capacity in the blood. And so, normal hemoglobin can run anywhere in the range of like 12 to 16. And just to give you an idea, and we see commonly patients who are in sickle cell crisis have a hemoglobin of 3. So just to give you an idea of just how devastating it is. And there's really not much capacity left for the body to accommodate. So these are usually very
This is
emergent type of
life-threatening if they're at
situations.
3. A hemoglobin of
Yes.
3. Yes.
Yes, for sure. And so then we have what are called exchange transfusions, where it's an automated process where we're actually removing their unhealthy cells and replacing it with healthy cells, with donor cells. And so this can often require, depending on the size of the patient, is the biggest factor in their content of red cells in their blood, may require around 8 to 10 units every time we do the exchange transfusion. And that is preferred for a number of reasons. And this may be done about once a month. So what that means is for a patient with sickle cell disease who's on an exchange program, that they may be requiring about 100 units every year. And so as an example, for a hospital that has a sickle cell program, if they have 10 patients, they could be using around 1,000 units a year. And you can imagine if we have 100,000
That's a lot of blood.
That's a lot of blood.
Yes.
Yeah, and especially when you're thinking about 100,000 individuals with sickle cell disease in the country, that adds to a lot of blood, adds up to a lot of blood. So in addition to just the volume, the number of units that we need, there's advanced testing is required. And so this is performed at the Red Cross IRLs. It's a laboratory. It's called an immunohematology reference laboratory, long word, but we call it IRL. And so what I like to say is that red cells are like faces. They're all different, but it turns out, as we have become to understand genetics better and study the genetics of red blood cells, that red cells that are from people of similar genetic backgrounds are a better match. So that's the basis of where we start to do our testing from. We start to characterize the features on the red cell and try to find the best match. Now, you probably have heard about antibodies in relation to like viruses or bacteria, some kind of pathogen. When your body sees something that is not you, it makes an antibody, and that's what it's supposed to do. But when you receive a blood transfusion with red cells that look different than yours, your body will also make antibodies because it looks foreign. And that in itself is actually not without consequence. And the antibodies themselves, if they're transfused in mismatched red cell, can break the cell. And so not only are you defeating the purpose of the transfusion because the cells are breaking, but they're also releasing their contents into the bloodstream, which can be toxic to the body and can also have downstream consequences, including organ damage and even death. I mean, it's a really complicated disease to manage. And of course, the more antibodies that someone has formed, the harder and harder it is to find matched blood. So when hospitals send us specimens, we will perform this advanced testing on both the patient blood and the donor's blood to hopefully provide the best matched blood. And we do testing on the blood of the patients in our laboratories, and then we also do molecular genetic testing at our national testing laboratory in Philadelphia. And so this helps us to obtain a better match. And of course, the better the match, the better the outcomes. And so just to give you a rough idea, we are in 2019, so this is pre-pandemic, we distributed almost 100,000 units of these specialty units. And if we don't have enough of the right blood, there may be either a delay in care, or they'll just be transfused less of what they need, or they'll be transfused mismatched blood. And these are some things that doctors have to make decisions about every day when taking care of these patients, because this is what we've got. This is what we're dealing with. And so we also store rare blood. We partner with the American Rare Donor Program to provide very rare blood, and we have storage facilities in our Douglasville facility and all over the country where we freeze rare blood so that we are able to provide it as needed. And the ARDP, the American Rare Donor Program, is actually not only with the Red Cross, it's across the country of all Red Crosses and also other blood centers. So it's a very cooperative program in order for us to be able to get the right product to the right patient when they need it. Mm-hmm. And so we are in very close communication with our hospitals in the community. They communicate the schedule for their transfusions so that we can get them the right blood and just coordinate it. It just requires very tight coordination to make sure that we have it on time. So, the need for blood is ongoing. And that's just in general, but particularly for this patient population because they depend on it for the entirety of their lives. So, our job is really never finished. And I just want to say, for anyone who has donated before, thank you. Please consider donating again. If you haven't before, try it out. You can always host a drive if you have a business. You can help recruit donors, encourage people to donate. You can volunteer. You can request a presentation. We are all over the place. I'm happy to do educational sessions. And I just encourage people to check out our website, redcrossblood.org, to find out more, to make an appointment. It's really a fantastic way to save a life and to contribute to the community in a really meaningful way.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lasky. I just wanted just to follow up on a couple points. And as you were sharing that we do have a percentage of people with sickle cell that have normal hemoglobins and those who do not need to be transfused on a regular basis. But as you said, when it becomes life-threatening, if they have an acute chest or they have had a stroke or they become severely anemic or have chronic pain, these life-sustaining blood transfusions help to improve their overall quality of life. And as you said, over time, if you have to get regular transfusions on the monthly basis, you can develop red cell antibodies, like you said. And so it's really, really important that they have phenotypically matched blood and from the donor so that we can reduce the risk of them developing complications like a transfusion reaction. So that's even more important that if you identify as of African descent, that I just wanted to clarify, do you still have that blue tie tag program where that blood would be tagged for someone with sickle cell? Or are you guys still hosting that initiative?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. So we do have a system in place where we are identifying, well, we start out with asking all of our donors to self-identify their race or their ethnic background. And for anyone who self-identifies as African American or mixed, we have an algorithm whereby we are testing the blood to phenotype it. As you said, the phenotype is like the face. It's what the red cells
Mm-hmm.
look like. So we get the phenotype so that we have that in our database ready to go, so that if we identify a patient with those needs, we can identify that unit and also that donor right away. And then also we do genetic testing on certain donors and units, because some patients will need more advanced level matching, and so we are encouraging definitely people of African descent to come out and donate, because they really are very needed. I mean, having a diverse blood supply is good for a diverse population, really.
Yes.
I think that really it's important. It's important for the blood, it's important for the patients, but it's also just important for the community. So we're really encouraging donors who are of African descent to come out and donate. And so, as you said, we do the testing to ensure that we are providing and able to provide the best matched blood, so that we don't see those transfusion reactions.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Lasky, for a phenomenal presentation and sharing such informative information. So now, as we transition into our second panelist, I want to bring on Dr. Monique Bowman. And Dr. Monique Bowman is the founder and naturopathic doctor of Harmony Health and Wellness. You may also recognize her from the We Love You monthly health and wellness newsletter. And if you have not or do not receive the We Love You newsletter, you can subscribe on their website. Without further ado, I want to welcome Dr. Monique. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Nina. How are you?
Good. And Dr. Monique, if you can put her bio back up, it will be phenomenal so we can share more about her. If not, I'm going to ask you to tell us about yourself because you have a unique specialty as a naturopathic doctor. So, yay! Dr. Bowman is a naturopathic physician in the state of Connecticut. She graduated in 2011 from the University of Bridgeport College of Naturopathic Medicine after completing 4 years of medical school after earning her BS in psychology at the City College in New York. Dr. Monique currently owns and operates Harmony Health and Wellness, LLC, a naturopathic telehealth practice that specializes in helping busy women accomplish their goals by supporting better health, by balancing their hormones, managing stress, and increasing energy with detox and uncovering food sensitivities. Dr. Monique would like to establish a brick and mortar wellness center to provide various detox therapies for patients in the future. But for now, she serves as the health initiative advisor for the international WeLoveU Foundation, a member of the New York Association of Naturopathic Physicians, as well as a member of the American Association of Naturopathic Physicians. In her spare time, which I don't know if you have much, but Dr. Monique enjoys roller skating and playing basketball with her two children. Welcome, Dr. Monique. I want to say that as a holistic medicine practitioner, I see that there has been more interest in our clients wanting a holistic approach to their sickle cell care. I wanted to know if you could share with us about naturopathic treatments for sickle cell disease.
Certainly. So, naturopathic medicine is defined as a holistic approach to handling disease and the health and wellness of an individual by first using the least invasive, the least toxic, and most natural therapies to restore health to the individual. And as the next slide showed, the previous slide rather, um, it's guided by these 6 principles. This is how naturopathic medicine is used to help individuals with their overall health. And it's first, do no harm, utilizing the healing power of nature, identify and treat the causes. The doctor serves as teacher, and then treat the whole person as well as prevention, right? And so this is how every individual is assessed and managed in the care of a naturopathic physician. And so when we're talking about sickle cell disease, there's a challenge, as Dr. Nina so beautifully described. Um, and it's a problem, or we can look at it as a challenge, I like to say, is that it's a hereditary condition that's caused by a genetic mutation. And to date, there's no known cure. And these individuals who are afflicted with sickle cell disease, they suffer a pain crisis. And as the doctors spoke before, both mentioned stroke as a potential complication, among other things, as well as a possibility of a shortened lifespan. And so when thinking about naturopathic treatments for this disorder, um, the solution would be to really just improve the quality of the individual's life as best as possible. And so, given the situation, there are certain factors that can be influenced to improve their quality of life. And so, this graph coming up actually shows that in any case, in any individual, your genetics play a role in your health. Your diet and nutritional status affect your overall health and well-being, and lifestyle. And lifestyle includes and encompasses stress, sleep, also physical activity, exercise, and these components make up, the individual's overall health status. And so, even though genetics can't be altered and changed because you're born with your genes the way that they are, how they're expressed can be influenced by these two other portions, the diet and nutrition, where eating,
Mhm.
you're able to get nutrients into your body that are useful for your body, and then lifestyle, how different behaviors and practices can improve or negatively impact your overall health. And so, uh, first off, diet is going to be like the most impactful thing that someone with sickle cell anemia can do for for their overall health status. And this is because this is something that we do every day, right? We eat multiple times a day, but the point of eating is to nourish your body with the nutrients that are needed to make red blood cells, in this case, healthy red blood cells, and produce energy and obtain nutrients that your body needs to do what it was designed to do. And so when we think about some of the complications that come up with sickle cell disease, a lot of it is inflammatory in nature. But when you even just defined inflammation, it's simply the cells of your immune system reacting to some foreign invader, some antigen, and a lot of times it's food. And so some food that doesn't agree with an individual can cause an immune reaction, which will disturb how the gut essentially breaks down your food and utilizes and absorbs those nutrients contained within that food for your body's optimal wellness. And so in sickle cell, individuals would fare better on an anti-inflammatory diet, a diet that's low in inflammation, that doesn't cause a reaction in their bloodstream and create pain and swelling and further distort or not supply their body with the raw materials to make healthier red blood cells. And so things that would benefit them when they're eating an anti-inflammatory diet is the foods that they're actually eating. They'll absorb those nutrients, they'll take them in, and they'll use those raw materials to make healthier red blood cells. And those nutrients contained in those red blood cells, the nutrients that they're receiving from the foods that assist with making healthy red blood cells are going to be your B12, namely, and B9, which is also known as folic acid. And also, the nutrients from the foods will give their body the materials to produce energy and oxygenate their blood very efficiently. And so, this slide shows some of the most commonly nutrient dense foods where you can receive the B12 and the folic acid and even minerals necessary for building healthy red blood cells, like iron, zinc, and copper are all found in foods abundantly. So it's so important for these individuals to eat a really healthy diet, which encompasses a wide variety of whole foods, fresh fruits and vegetables of different colors to really obtain the maximum benefits of their diet, of eating through their diet. And so also, when we're speaking about foods, like when we look at this list, liver, red meat, eggs, tuna, nutritional yeast, chickpeas, pinto beans, and you skip down to molasses, being a rich source of the minerals that I just mentioned, like iron and magnesium and potassium. This also helps to aid in hydration of the body, which is so hydration is essentially taking in water, a fluid to be used by the body. The body's made up of more than 70% water, so it's really important that these individuals are properly hydrated. And an easy way to do that is to eat fruits and veggies, which are loaded with a lot of the electrolytes and trace minerals necessary to obtain and hold on to the water that they consume so that their red blood cells stay hydrated, the plasma that the red blood cells travel in is hydrated, and they keep that proper fluid balance throughout their body. And next slide, please. And so this slide actually talks about two very important areas as well, like fat. So sometimes fat takes on a negative connotation, however, but these are really beneficial fats. And the role of fats play in the health and well-being of sickle cell patients and anyone in general is that the red blood cells, like all of our cells, contain a cell membrane, which is the barrier between the cell, and it separates the inside contents from the outside environment. And that membrane contains phospholipids or fats. And so consuming healthy fats is only going to supply the body with the raw materials to make that red blood cell, as much as possible, stay nice and supple and flexible so that it can travel freely throughout the blood vessels and the small capillaries, to avoid situations where the cells get rigid and stiff um, and clog up the blood vessels and capillaries, causing pain, inflammation, and even swelling. So coconut oil, ghee, extra virgin olive oil, nuts and seeds, these are really good sources of those healthy fats that the cells of the body could make use of. And then for supplementation, this is usually going to be necessary in the case with sickle cell disease, just because they need that extra support. And so, as I mentioned before, B12 and folic acid are really necessary for making healthier red blood cells and allowing them to mature. And so, a B complex will give you all of the B vitamins and supply the body with what it needs so that the red blood cells can be made nice and healthy. And then the omega-3 fish oils or cod liver oil will provide the body with those healthy fats to ensure the best health of the cell membranes of the red blood cells to stay nice and supple. Um, Herbs like turmeric is anti-inflammatory, so that'll assist with pain and inflammation. And also blood flow, as well as vitamin E, being an antioxidant and anti-inflammatory, helps with much of the same. And then, as I mentioned before, the importance of electrolytes and or a mineral complex to really just assist the body to retain the water that's consumed, so that the individual is well hydrated and their blood, they don't have issues with blood flow and circulation.
May I ask a question? How much water should an individual with sickle cell drink in a day? I
That's
have
a
these
great
battles with my clients.
well, I
A
like to use the
lot,
general.
right?
I
An
understood.
adult.
For an adult.
Mhm,
Okay, so my general rule of thumb is like half the body weight in ounces, right? And
mhm,
that's the goal. But usually it takes time to work up to that. But with them keeping that in mind, they can set a weekly goal to increase by half the ounces that they're already consuming now, until they eventually get where ideally they should be, which is half their body weight in ounces, if that's comfortable.
mhm, mhm,
And so, in addition to hydration being important, and we talked about fats and supplements, equally as important as everything else is lifestyle. Uh, Lifestyle and stress management. And just as long as you're a human being, this is really important and impacts your health in a good or a bad way, depending on your choices. And so this includes and involves physical activity. Now, this is up to, of course, the discretion of the provider who the patient is in care of, but some level of activity, whether light to moderate physical activity, is definitely going to be beneficial. Also, promoting better sleep quality, and in a case of sickle cell disease, I'm sure most will deal with some level of sleep disturbance, and so helping them to lessen the difficulties that they have associated with sleeping, teaching them to discontinue electronics 30 minutes to an hour before bedtime, ensuring that the room that they're sleeping in is not only comfortable, quiet, but also cool and dark to promote better and deeper sleep. And then also body work
So you
therapies
mean
like,
discontinuing this 30 minutes before bedtime or even more?
yes,
All
absolutely.
electronic devices, right?
All.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Dr.
um,
Monique said it.
and then also incorporating some amount of like body work therapy, like massage or acupuncture, really helps to promote blood flow, and also stress management. I mean, who wouldn't love to get a massage and relax under acupuncture needles and just feel really good? And so that would be really beneficial in the case of sickle cell disease. And then in terms of stress management, I also encourage individuals to find a creative outlet where they can really express themselves, and or some counseling or support group, so that they can really release and like I said, express themselves for their overall health. This is really important, not just for them, but for everyone dealing or battling with any chronic illness.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure for the sake of time, could have so much more dialogue about that, especially around plant-based therapies,
Oh
which is
yes.
so much of importance and interest, and supplements, other supplements for individuals with sickle cell. But thank
Yes.
you so much, Dr. Monique, for phenomenal presentation and so many tips that you have provided for those living with sickle cell, for them to live a healthier lifestyle, that they can be well with sickle cell. How about that?
Absolutely.
So I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
So I would like to bring back Dr. Lasky, because we've had some of our viewing audience ask some questions, and I'd like to have you answer those before we end this phenomenal webinar today. I'm so excited, and I've learned so much from both of you, so thank you so much. So, Dr. Lasky, as a sickle cell provider, it's always makes me nervous. When the pandemic started, the first thing I thought was, how are we going to make sure that individuals with sickle cell that need life-sustaining blood, will the hospitals be able to maintain a critical amount of blood during this time, as there's so many patients in hospitals with COVID. Plus, there are those who with sickle cell that develop COVID or are diagnosed with COVID, and still those who need life-sustaining monthly transfusions just to live a decent quality of life. But my question to you is, has there been any change during the pandemic for those who need blood, and for blood donors who have been donating to hospitals to make sure that they sustain a critical amount of blood for those
Yes,
in need?
so it's been a huge challenge for us during the pandemic. The places where we collect blood, like schools, businesses, sporting events, faith-based organizations, these are all places that were shut down and have continued to shut down. So it's been a really significant challenge for us to be able to continue to collect at the level that we need. And we have experienced some very severe shortages throughout the last year and a half. For a number of reasons. Even when we started to see things opening back up, then, people were going on vacations and seeing family and doing all the things that they hadn't been able to in a long time. And now, unfortunately, we're seeing things start to shut down again because we were having this surge in the Delta variant. So it's been a really significant challenge. At our peak, pre-pandemic, we were seeing about 57,000 blood donors of African American, 5,700 African American donors every month. And throughout the pandemic, that to its lowest dropped to 1,000. So we've had a really significant impact to our ability to collect, as well as the types of donors that are coming in. And so, we're starting to build that back up. We're seeing a lot of repeat donors. We're really trying to increase our first-time donors. But the way that the hospitals have dealt with that is, again, it's been just a very close communication. But for some patients, they have been evaluated to be transitioned from the exchange transfusions to simple transfusions, or they've increased the interval between their transfusions. or they'll just transfuse fewer units. If they need 8, maybe we can get them 6. So we're really just trying to do what we can. We are starting to climb out of that, and through this, it has really, helped us to hone our processes for identifying donors and identifying the appropriate units. So it's an ongoing effort, but it's had a huge impact. Not only that, but it's impacted our ability to collect because of our staff. We have had staff illnesses. We have shortages in our manufacturing facilities because of COVID quarantines. We've had to reduce, even for the drives that we do conduct, we have to reduce the number of people that we have at a time so that we're not having crowding type of situations. So it's really had, the Red Cross deals with emergency type situations. So we're experienced with having to be nimble. We are often not able to collect in certain regions due to natural disasters, whether it's floods or tornadoes or, whatever, earthquakes, fires, all over the country. And the fact that we're a national organization, the rest of the country can make up for deficiencies if one area is suffering. And that this has been a huge challenge because obviously COVID has affected everybody universally. So, we're just really grateful for all of the donors that have continued to come out to donate. And, it's a very safe process. We have a lot of screening measures in place for both our staff, our donors, just wiping down in between each donor, having the bed 6 feet apart and so forth, just to make sure that it's a safe environment and that people feel safe. But we have partnered with, our community, like county health organizations and state health organizations, just to underscore the point that blood donation is an essential component of our healthcare process, and it really is important to have that community support and local government support.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lasky. That's just great to know that we are, as healthcare providers in the hospitals, are doing all that they can to make sure that everyone who needs a blood transfusion is able to get blood when needed. So I wanted to also ask you, Dr. Monique, about what one thing can someone with sickle cell do as far as changing their diet to help improve their overall health and wellness?
Oh, certainly. The best and most important thing that I think that they can do to impact their overall wellness would be an elimination diet, identifying what foods trigger an inflammatory response in the body. And in doing that, they'll be able to see exactly how their body responds to the commonly eaten foods that they're eating. And in a lot of cases, you're going to find highly processed and refined foods, sugar, um, refined carbohydrates are going to be highly inflammatory in nature to the body. So these are things that they can do immediately to improve their overall health.
Thank you so much. And then last, I'm going to throw this out to either one of you all. I have been serving the sickle cell community for many years. But what would you say is the most prominent or prevalent misconception about sickle cell? I'll start with you, Dr. Lasky, especially when it comes to blood transfusions. How about that?
A couple of things. Number one, first of all, is people associate with sickle cell anemia only, that it affects just the blood levels, when really it affects really every organ in the body, because it impairs blood flow and oxygenation from the blood to the heart, to the liver, to the joints, all over. And then the second misconception, I think, I've heard this from the sickle cell patients with sickle cell disease themselves, is their pain. Their pain is so severe. their physical pain. And they are often, when they go to emergency rooms, that's one of the most commonly presenting symptoms is severe pain, because their tissue is dying. Their blood flows is getting cut off to all of their tissues in their body, and they're experiencing severe pain. And it is often seen as drug-seeking behavior, which can often impact their ability to get timely treatment, which is really a tragedy. And so, for anyone in the healthcare industry, it's very important to recognize a patient with sickle cell disease and that their pain is very real and it needs to be treated immediately.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. And lastly, Dr. Monique, what would you say one of the biggest misconceptions about sickle cell as far as them having the opportunity, just like anyone else, to live an optimal quality of life and be healthy? What is your
Yeah,
response to that?
more of the same. I'm always going to talk about nutrition. It's so impactful. We eat to live, essentially, and our nutrients that our body needs to do what it's supposed to do comes from food. So it's so important for digestive health to be in the best shape possible, so that we can absorb, sickle cell patients can absorb the nutrients from the foods that they're eating, so that it benefits their body. It helps them make healthier red blood cells. It helps them with circulation and blood flow. It helps them with energy, right? So I think that'll always be my my default answer.
Wow. I want to just say thank you to both of our extraordinary panelists, Dr. Lasky and Dr. Bowman. I'm going to give you a virtual applause. Thank you for joining us tonight. And without further ado, I'm going to pass back our webinar to Dwayne as we close out. Thank you so much.
Dr. Nina, that was great. And thank you to all of our panelists. Everyone did such a great job. As we learned from the webinar, we can see how important it is that those with sickle cell anemia receive blood donations. And did you know that Georgia has one of the highest populations of individuals with sickle cell disease? Why am I bringing up Georgia? Well, it's because the International WeLoveU Foundation is hosting a blood drive at the Georgia World Congress Center in Atlanta this Sunday, September 26th, in partnership with the American Red Cross. The blood drive will take place from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So for those in the Atlanta area, just go to our website, that's WeLoveUusa.org, to register. For those who will not be in the Atlanta area, there's good news. The American Red Cross has provided us with a trackable link so that you can find a location near you and donate blood there that will count towards our national blood drive. And for those who cannot donate blood, we understand not everyone can donate in that way. But if you want to support We Love You, there's other ways that you can support. You can become a subscriber to our weekly newsletter, or you can make a monetary donation by going to our website and clicking donate at the top of the page. Thank you again to our moderator, our panelists, and all of our audience. I'll see you next time, and we love you. Good night, everyone. See you next time.
We deliver the message of word